Ruth, you actually went to Art Center for photography, and now you have a company that has lots of licenses, including Harry Potter and some of the Looney Tunes and DC Comics. She's the licensee for DC Comics. And so what, from your background, not only knowing your dad, you're growing up with him, but also as a trained artist, has helped you in art directing? Because you do a lot, you've directed a lot of the images that have come out.
Yeah. Because when I got started in the animation art business, it was actually prompted, sadly, by my dad passing away. It was very sudden, and my mom wanted to raise scholarships for animation students, and she said, hey, why don't we sell some of those animation cells? Little did I know what I was getting into. But Linda had set the stage so beautifully, so I've always credited her because you made it a lot easier for me to get involved in. But the difference for me was I didn't have the living artist to do the drawings from the cartoon. So it was a great exploration for me then to, because the first set of cells we did, I picked my favorites of my dad's cartoons, and Great Piggy Bank Robbery and so forth, and went in and picked iconic scenes and had really great animators help me recreate the drawings. So it was a very different way to do it, and didn't know if there'd be a market for it because it wasn't signed, but it was a very faithful recreation of the frame. So it was exciting because it was an exciting time with animation art. People were really starting to, they realized these are great memories from their childhood, and now they can hang it in their house, and it brings them joy. And so we lived through this very exciting time where, just grew and circle, and suddenly there's so many galleries, and I'm like, what happened? I had intended to be a photographer, and it was just sort of helping Mom on the side. Next thing I know, I've got a company, and here we go. So, and then it was a few years into that Warner Brothers decided to open their own stores. And do any of you remember the Warner Brothers studio stores? Love those stores, still miss them. And they came to me and said, we really love your design sense, and we'd love for you to be the art director for the gallery part of the store. I was kind of torn, honestly, because I was a little angry at them about taking our license away. Really, really angry. And but I decided to get over that because I felt like I could look out for the directors being there, and who knows if they brought somebody else in, what would have happened. And I do truly love all the different. I have favorite Chuck cartoons, favorite McKimson, favorite Freeling, and so that was fun because then I got to. And I got to work with Frizz because he was still alive at the time, and so I think I was raised with the aesthetic and, like you said, good at graphic design, and really I love being an art director, and I think I just have the softest spot for artists. Growing up with my dad, who I adored, and just you see how pure they are in their love for their art. It's really what matters. It's not the money. It's not anything else, and they can easily be taken advantage of. And so I think I'm not as good a businesswoman as Linda. I'm not great at everything, but I really love the artists, and I pride myself on my relationships with the people I work with. So through my experiences at studio stores, and then it just grew and grew, and next thing you know, I'm promoted to be head of design for all the store product. So I'm on a plane to go spend the day with J.K. Rowling to get the drawings right for the first Harry Potter product, and I'm in Europe and meeting with design, and it's like the whole thing just happened, and I was along for the ride. I did all right. So
you were really important to Harry Potter art being out there.
Well, and I'm a huge fan, so that worked out really well.
Yeah.
And even now, I got to go design a line for the tour in Europe, and work with Stuart Craig, the art director from all the films. I love that stuff. I know you guys do too. The interpretive art from films is so beautiful and inspiring. I just saw some from the new film that I'm really excited about, but I can't talk about. So, and things like Iron Giant, films that weren't properly promoted by the studio, to be able to champion that and work with Brad Bird and do art from that, was incredible. So, we have our special things we can do that are very different than the toy manufacturers and the greeting card and stationery licenses. we are kind of the very special, the part that connects close to the art and the heart of the story, and so.
And the creators, because one of the things you do in your business is you try as often, I think always, with a lot of the properties, you only work with artists that have something to do with the films or with the properties. That's always been important to you.
Well, I think that's really cool when you can. You know, the people that had their hands on it and really helped shape it. And so, and you know, I'd love to do that all day long. So it's been a really exciting career and a great career. And then when the stores closed, I went to them, the executives, and I said, there were a number of people interested in doing this, but I said, I'd really like to continue with this art. And I did a business proposal, and they knew me well, and so they let me do it. I acquired the unframed art from the studio stores, and then continued to publish and, you know, DC Comic, work with artists like Alex Ross and Jim Lee, and you know, and everything I work on is art I love and properties I love. So that's, how cool is that? So it's been really great. My daughter Alex, she's sitting out there. She loves coming to the studio with me. You know, there's art everywhere, and it's like when I used to visit my dad's studio. It's surrounded by art, and there's just a creative energy there, and artists dropping by, and you like it, don't you? Yeah.
So one of the things I love, which is like the last part of what we want to talk about on the panel before we take a few questions, is as much as you both have these careers and you both have done all of this work with art, you are both doing something sort of different than what you've been doing. You have your hands in, but Linda, you were instrumental in starting the Center for Creativity, which is really an important thing that ties into Chuck's aesthetic and way of thinking and his genius and his love for creativity. And then you, I love, because I love that I was reading something that she wrote in an interview in 2012 where someone said, oh, you should write a book about your dad. And she's like, bleh.
I did not say
no,
bleh.
You were like, not bleh like that, but like, oh, let somebody else do it. I write little bits. But I wouldn't write a whole book. I'm thinking about it, I think is what you said.
Okay, I'll correct you later.
You correct me now. Correct me now. Tell me exactly what you said, because the point is,
I don't remember what I said.
Now you're a novelist, published, well-received, highly acclaimed.
Highly acclaimed.
You are. She is. She writes romance novels.
I know, isn't that crazy? I'm pimping one. Well, the funny thing is, so I started writing contemporary romance. You know, if you told me 10 years ago I'd be doing this, but you know, here I am. So my first book, Animate Me, that I self-published, is about an animator, and it takes place in an animation studio, and there's all the reference to all the properties we love and everything in it. So it was a very joyful thing for me to write, and I put it out there and found readers, and so now I'm getting ready to publish my 6th book. Which I do this late at night and run my company during the day.
But you weren't doing it in 2012, so that is how fast it's happened.
I work fast.
Well, you've been thinking about it a long time. So you might actually, now you're starting to think of maybe about writing a book about your dad.
I had a moment like about a year ago where I thought, I think I was meant to do this because it gave me the confidence to tackle my dad's book. Because he's the only one of the major directors that hasn't had a book about himself. And part of the problem, honestly, is between the tapes he made, and let me clarify, he made tapes of everybody. My grandmother talking about her life. He had a documentary kind of side to him. So it wasn't just the ego, oh, I've got to tell my story. He taped all of us talking about stuff. But, and he saved so much art, and he saved so many of his notes and his diaries, and it's a monumental task. There's just no two ways about it. Going through the archive now, I get so overwhelmed at times I can barely, it's a huge responsibility, and I care so much about it. It's so close to my heart. But anyway, my confidence is building about this, and I have great friends like Jerry and other people in the industry that want to see this happen and will help guide me and support me. And so that's definitely on my list of what I want to accomplish in the next few years. So
I would love to see that.
Yeah, because we've got beautiful art, but yeah, different people have said you should really write it from maybe not this book, but there should be a book you write about, from the heart, about your experience growing up, you know, with your dad, because it really was such a unique experience, and it shaped me in so many ways. So,
well, I hope that happens.
Yeah.
And Linda, talk a little bit about the Center for Creativity, and because I think has anybody been to it? Right, so you need to tell them because they need to check it out.
Well, there is a Center for Creativity location in Costa Mesa, and if you go to chuckjones.com, you can find out everything about it and also about the galleries and so on. But I have a few of these if anybody's interested in the center. And our vision is a world where creativity is known and experienced in every discipline by the many, not just the few. The idea, and it's common to all of the directors and probably all of the writers and animators and everybody else in this industry, and maybe in most innovative industries, that we are losing our ability to use our imagination and our creativity, and we have to open this part of our mind up again. There's not just one answer to every question, which is much of what we're being taught in school. And there are many answers to every question. And if we don't start using that part of our brain, we're going to die, literally, as a human race. And most corporations and organizations are now hurting terribly because they can't find employees who can think creatively. And so it is essential. We believe that it's essential. It's not just fun. It is fun, but it's not just fun. We're working with a vital aging program at Hoag Hospital in Newport Beach because they believe there's a lot of research now that shows, and I'm sure some of you in this audience know it, that if you use your creativity, your imagination early, that you can actually push back dementia. You can actually have more years of an active brain. And apparently the thing that most Americans are afraid of is dementia these days. Not only Alzheimer's, my ex-husband just died of Lewy body dementia, and there are many different dementias that are attacking us. And we can actually, by learning how to think creatively, we can actually push that back and not have to experience it so early or maybe at all. So aside from the medical and psychological and psychiatric and neurological reasons, it's also an awful lot of fun to explore how to use our brains in a different way. One of my favorite analogies is that if we took our children and we tied them to a chair when they were 2 years old, and then when they were 18, we untied them and said, go out and become a ballerina, or learn how to dance, or run the marathon. Obviously, they couldn't even walk. And if we do that to our children's brains, we're doing the same thing. So this center is devoted to the idea of trying to promote the use of our brains at any age, to learn how to open what everybody has, which is an imagination and an ability to be creative.
And in all disciplines, not specific to art, just in all ways.
In all ways.
In writing and art.
Because we're the Chuck Jones Center, we certainly have a lot of emphasis on drawing, and we have drawing classes, and we have a Saturday morning free workshop at the center called Drop In and Draw, and we have summer camps, and we have all kinds of things. We need a billionaire to endow us. For those of you who don't know, Chuck Jones did not own any of the characters, and everything he did was work for hire. And so we have lots of stuff. Like Ruth, we are overwhelmed with stuff. It is a gigantic task to go through what he and we have saved over the years, and there's so much treasure, and we don't have the money to deal with it. You know, I want a museum like the Disney Family Museum. I go up there and leave my saliva all over it. And Diane and I were talking about, maybe she was talking with Ruth too, about doing a Daffy and Donald exhibit, which I think would have been so fantastic. I can't imagine Warner Brothers and Disney doing it, but I think it would have
could
been
try.
great. But sadly, we lost her. But if any of you are interested in the center, please go and look at it online, or I have a few of these little introductory pieces that I'll leave up here that you can come and get if you want. But if any of you know a billionaire who loves Chuck Jones, we would sure love to get a few $1 million